could find out which skill we developed before and how can I act later on to solve this ticket. But maybe let's move to the most exciting part.
Great. Yeah, happy to drive you to this. But first, let me put some things in perspective. When we're creating a new Joule skill, it's important to provide a relevant and very detailed name and description because it's the kind of information that Joule leverages in order to find the right skill when they are supporting the user in this conversational interface. So you will be able to go into the library and look for the most adequate skill between the standard and the custom skills that has available, and then it will provide this assistance to the user. But now let's look into the demo so I can show you how you create a custom skill. Great. So what we can see here is we're in build, and as you saw and we were mentioning before, we can select use skill as a new entry point.
Aquí estamos en una demostración de cómo va a funcionar esto en SAP.
In this case, it will be about creating ServiceNow ticket to complement what Maria has just shown. First, we're going to provide some information to the end user when the ticket is starting. So when we're triggering the skill, we'll be able to show some text to the user. Additionally, when the skill is already running, we'll be showing some additional information to the user. And then we can also provide some buttons for him to be able to get the status and see if the response has been completed. Now, let's look into, first let's save the project, and now we can go into the configuration of the inputs and outputs of skill, which is very relevant and important in order to define the logic of this. If we look into this, we're going to go into the configuration of inputs first. For this scenario, the first input that we will require is the subject of this ticket that we want.
Es como trabajar con SAP Process Automation. El que ya conoce esta plataforma se le va a facilitar esto muchísimo.
And after that, we also had another input, which will be the description of the ticket. So we will configure this information and provide also a good description for it, so we can keep track of it for anyone collaborating on the project. Once we have configured the inputs, we can move into configure the outputs that we want to provide when this skill is executed by Joule. So let's look at the configuration of the outputs. And for this scenario, it will be very useful to have the ticket link so the user can have access to the ticket that has been created on the external system. And the second output that we should configure should be the ticket number, just in case that the user wants to take a look later or share it with another colleague in order to share this information. So let's also configure the ticket number and provide a good description for it. Okay, so here we provide a description, and after we're done with these outputs, we can also apply to the changes and start working in the logic of our skill. So let's move over into trying to bring the connectivity into this skill. Just as you are familiar with other SAP build solutions, we can leverage the actions that are within our library. So let's look into adding an action that is published in our library already, and then we can zoom it here. We can search for the create ticket action that is already published, and we can add it into our project,
que ya hemos
so we
hecho
can
videos
configure the
explicando
parameters
sobre
that
esto.
are necessary in this scenario.
Aquí con esto
So
yo
now let's
conecto con
move
Business One o con
into the
S4HANA
data
o
mapping that you're already
sea.
familiar, and also the configuration of the destination variable. So
Destinations.
here we'll provide a destination that is binded to our BTP administration account.
Le doy
So we
gracias
can
a Dios
really
que aprendí
have some
esto hace años,
flexibility
señores.
when the
Hoy
deployment
les
and
digo a
also the
ustedes,
update
aprendan
of the
BTP y
scenario
aprendan SAP
in
Build.
case there's any
Les
changes
va a
on the
cambiar la vida.
connectivity required. So once we do the configuration of the destination, we can go into the inputs and outputs and start doing the data mapping in order to indicate
Después
which of the
mapeas
information
los
that Joule is getting from the
con
user
los inputs que
should be leveraged
configuraste.
in this API action. So we'll use the ticket URL or the description here, and also like the subject. This will be the two pieces of information that we need to provide for this post API in order to get the information. We can do additional configuration of variables in case that there's any more advanced capabilities needed. Once we have configured the inputs and outputs, we can also move into trying to do the configuration of the outputs that we will deliver and obtain. So here from the API, we will look into the values that are displayed as a result of the call to the API, and we will put this to be leveraged into the output of the skill. So now let's save the project, and let's move forward to the configuration of the output. Here, as we mentioned before, we will be showing the ticket link and also the ticket number, so the user can use this information in a visual way and really have access to this. And once we have finished this configuration, we can also take the release of the project and the deployment. In this case, we're going to show you
Está haciendo el release del
make the first
proyecto.
release and add some notes so people can understand
Todos
this.
estos son conceptos
And
de
for
SAP
this
que ya
particular demo that I'm doing,
conocen.
I already deployed this so we can show you how this looks when you're having the conversation with Joule. So after doing the release, we're going to move to Joule to show you how you can see this as part of the conversation. So here, what we see is Joule as an entry point. 1 second. Okay. Now here we have the
Ahora está
conversation.
Joule en el chat
So here
bot.
we can tell Joule that we need some support in order to create a ticket with HR, and we're going to request that we need to do for the data science
Escribes en el
training in our
prompt lo que tú
organization.
quieres que haga, pero ya
So we're
tienes
going to
tu
submit the
función ya
request to
programada
Joule
para que él
and
se
see
encargue.
what it comes back with. Okay, so after Joule processes this request, it identifies the right custom skill and it can connect to this. But it will also be intelligent enough to know that there's another input that is required.
Qué
So it's
bárbaro.
asking me to
Está
provide a
mostrando
detailed
cómo
description.
funciona Joule
In this
dentro
case,
de
I'm going to
esta
take leverage of
personalización.
these advanced capabilities of Joule, and I'm going to ask it to create a description for me based on the information that I have provided so far in the chart. With this, Joule takes everything into the context of the conversation of the history and comes with some proposal of the description, which for me looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and tell Joule to use this description and please continue with the creation of the ticket. So I'm going to tell him to please use this description and move forward. So now, after we do this, you will have all the necessary inputs in order to be able to create the ticket on this third-party application. And once this is triggered, it will start showing the messages that we configure when we are creating this custom skill. So it tells us that the ticket creation is in process, and we can also
Tremendo.
get the
Los que
ticket
conocimos SAP
and once this has
Conversational
been
AI
completed, what
y
we
los que
see is that it
conocemos SAP
provides
vamos a
also
ser
a
felices
link
con
and
Joule
the
aquí.
ticket number. So let's open the link and then let's look at the ticket that we have been generated. And what we will see on this ticket is that it has the information about the subject of the HR ticket for data science training. It also has the information of the description that we have done. Isn't that amazing?
Hermoso, señores, hermoso.
Let's move over to, in summary, what we have achieved so far is to really enhance Joule.
Miguel es latino, me parece, pero vive en Alemania, en
So as
Waldo.
Maria was showing, you can either share information from SAP into other systems, or you can bring information into SAP and combine it in order to have more advanced scenarios. And for this, you can leverage the solutions and artifacts that we have in SAP Build in order to build all of these solutions. You can leverage automations, processes, API actions, business decisions, and also document understanding. And there will be many more solutions to come. But Maria, can you give us a little insight into the timeline?
Yes. So the Joule Studio will be available for the beta testing
Va a
by the
estar
end of
disponible
this year.
como beta
Please
en
stay
este
tuned for more
trimestre
updates.
y
We
para
plan to go
uso disponible
generally
general
available
desde el Q1
in
del año que
Q1
viene.
2025. But we actually have worked already on extended functionalities, and let me quickly give you a sneak peek into it. We will allow you to bring your AI agents to Joule. The AI agents can be developed in Joule Studio as well. And if you want to learn more about it, please stay tuned for the session tomorrow and get to know how AI agents can support you with your processes. And what we are planning is to support you to add your agents to Joule. That's coming soon next year. And of course, if you're interested to learn more about developing with Joule's help, check out our session catalog. We have a lot of content to share with you. And of course, please join our SAP Build community to stay tuned for the latest updates.
Yes, but now let's go and take a look at some of the questions that have been posted on the chat.
Ahora van a responder preguntas. Está genial. Estos 30 minutos, señores, valen oro. Del TechEd, me parece que esta era la sesión que yo estaba esperando. La sesión que más me interesaba.
Is Joule Studio already available as service on BTP?
Okay, thanks for the question.
Vamos a ver.
So Joule Studio at the moment is a lab preview. As Maria was sharing on the details, this will be coming later for a
Se llama Miguel Ángel Mesa Martínez,
adopter
es
kind of
latino,
beta program,
donde se
and
paga.
then next year we'll be doing the GI.
And also another question, what is the difference between SAP Build Code, Joule Studio, and Business Application Studio? Is Joule Studio similar tool as BAS, like Business Application Studio?
Yes, there's some similarities. At the end of the day, what we want to position is Joule Studio to be one special place when you can have your AI projects. So that's why we're trying to bring these advanced capabilities that we're showing, the Joule skills, and later AI agents and other solutions, so we can have them focused. There will be some sharing of the capabilities across the SAP portfolio and the experience that you're familiar with.
When customers use Joule, is there customer-specific data that can be used
Una
to
pregunta
train
aquí que
large
yo haría
language
es,
models
¿dónde puedo ver
behind
yo
the
este
functionality?
asistente? ¿En dónde? ¿En
Yeah,
una
that's a
app?
very
¿En
good
una,
question. I think that's
una
something that we
URL?
will
¿Dónde
need to
puedo yo
understand
insertar
from our
el
customers and
asistente?
go into conversations and to really understand their use cases and try to see how we can address them and how we can try to have this special training if required for the scenarios.
We have one more question.
En WorkZone.
A lot of questions are coming today, actually. Thank you so much for putting your questions. And another question, what would be the role of a typical developer of Joule?
So the role of a typical developer will consist in identifying the kind of support that we want to provide business users during the interaction. So a developer will have to understand the challenges that a business user is facing and what they are trying to achieve on their daily activities. And then with that, they can identify what kind of connectivity they need to be in, what kind of data do they need, what kind of capabilities, and how these skills can be executed and programmed in order to bring the support and the right information. And everything about Joule is trying to identify in which pattern we can support the end users. We can either help them with some transactional analytics or also to try to bring information in the context of their day-to-day activities so they can do better and faster decisions.
Great, thank you for answering this question. And another question from the audience. Does Joule has
Hay que esperar el
capability
primer
to
Q
also
porque
make
va a estar en
functional
beta
configurations
2024 lo que queda de
based
año.
on natural language prompt?
Yes, this is something that will come close together with SAP portfolio. As you have seen, there's natural language prompt in other solutions. This is something that we will also try to bring to further support the development of the Joule skills. That will be part of the functionalities that we're planning to bring in the future.
Perfect. And now I think we wanted to wrap up this session and tell you thank you for being here today, and please stay tuned for more updates and for more sessions later today or tomorrow.
Tengo
Thank you
celular
very
aquí
much
con
for joining. I
traducción,
think it was very exciting
tablet,
to share this news
grabadora.
with you, and we're excited about it, and we're happy to bring you more in the future. Thanks a lot, Maria.
Thank you, Miguel.
Tremendo, Miguel. Miguel, 20 puntos. Te felicito, Miguel. Gracias a Dios tenemos ahí a un latino. Bueno, mi gente, acaba de terminar este video. Aquí le estoy poniendo, ¿no? Este video que acaba de terminar de 30 minutos, para mí es la parte más importante de todo el TechEd del día de hoy. Obvio, hay muchas noticias interesantes, pero uno debe personalizar lo que está viendo y poder enfocarse en lo que a uno le interesa, porque son muchos temas, entonces no podemos meterle la cabeza y la mente a todo eso. Tienes que saber filtrar qué información es la que necesitas, cuál es la que le suma a lo que ya tú tienes armado con el conocimiento que ya tienes. Y en este momento les digo algo: todas las personas que como yo ya tenemos experiencia y sabemos utilizar SAP Build en SAP Build Apps, en SAP Build Process Automation, en SAP Build WorkZone, vamos a ser felices con Joule ahora aquí como asistente, no como asistente para crear, sino como asistente de usuario, para poderle dar a los usuarios una experiencia de uso extremadamente superior. Así que bueno, mi gente, espero que les haya gustado este video. Denle like, compártanlo, porque lo que estoy haciendo aquí es reaccionar a la conferencia que a mi parecer y basado en mis intereses era la conferencia más importante del día de hoy del TechEd. La pude ver en vivo, pude escuchar a Miguel en vivo, pude ver a María en vivo, y les digo desde ya, una belleza lo que acaban de presentar y la demo que nos acaban de hacer. No puedo esperar a que pase el primer Q del 2025 para empezar a usarlo. Y ya saben que ahí voy a estar haciendo videos para compartir esa información con todos ustedes. Porque la idea es comparto, aprendo y así vamos haciendo un ecosistema cada vez más fuerte. Cuídense mucho, ya saben, SAP Business One es para siempre.